Good evening, everyone. How's it going? Cheers. First of a double session tonight. Yes, indeed. I'm going to be on China Guitar Skeptics live stream at 6:30. So I've got to pace myself rather carefully this evening, it has to be said. Anyway, cheers. Good evening, everyone. Oh, excuse me. I keep forgetting to turn the volume down and there's that delay. So let's have a look at the chat and see who we've got in. That's usually the first order of business. Dave Lewis, first in the chat there. Well done, Dave. David Evans, Johnny Love, Malcolm Spillett, Deco Dude, Sean House, Steve Hoggett. How are you, mate? Oh, and dearie me, procreate with a web-footed waterfowl, as they say. My old pal Jem Jarvis is in. How are you, Jem? Yes, me and Jem have known each other since, college, basically, back in the 80s. He was best man at my wedding and I was best man at his. And, we're old muckers, me and Jem. How are you, mate? Nice to see you on the stream. Where are we? Steve Hoggett, Lee, you're in. Colin Falcon. Dear me, you're having internet problems. Druss the Legend, Vincent Brennan, Chip Young, Steve Muskie, Ian Clark. How are you, Ian? No, it's not a late curry tonight. It's Chinese tonight. It's sweet and sour chicken. Morrison's finest. We shall be saving the takeaway for tomorrow night. And we've got Thomas Mulvaney, Anton, Nightwish Lover, all the usual crew, basically. Nice to see you all once again, turning out to watch a bald, fat northern lad drink beer and talk cobblers for an hour. There's no accounting for taste, is there? Anyway. So, let me tell you, as is usually the case, hang on, where have I put my vape? There it is, right underneath the mic. Let me tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. That's usually what we talk about first thing. I keep wanting to say tomorrow, but I don't do a Saturday video anymore, do I? It's on a Sunday now, 5 p.m. on Sunday. You know that Jerry Donahue signature model guitar that was on yesterday, I think? I've done a bit of a country solo with that, and there's all the usual stuff, you know, a bit of tab and a jam track for me Patreon supporters. Then on Monday, I'm going to be doing a video, or have done a video, but it's not going live until Monday, on, a classic Steve Howe guitar solo from the early 80s. Let's just say it's from Steve's other band from the early 80s, as opposed to Yes. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to work out which one that is, does it? Then on Tuesday, I'm going to be talking about my 5 favourite Pink Floyd performances. Wednesday, what am I talking about on Wednesday? I can't remember. I've done the Wednesday video and I can't remember what it is I've done it on. I'll get back to you. It's one of the theory. Oh, yes, that's it. It's the Santana scale. That's what's on Wednesday. I've just got that many videos buzzing through my head all the time now. I'll lose track of which one's going up when. Then on Thursday, we're back to the fantasy guitar shopping. Remember a couple of weeks ago I did that video where it was, you've got £100, an unexpected windfall, and, suddenly you decide that there's a need to spend £100 on something guitar related. Well, same sort of thing on Thursday, but except on Thursday it's going to be £200. Oh, and before we go any further, I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to William Campbell. You know who you are, William. You sent me this. An Electro-Harmonix C9 organ machine. Basically, a little pedal that you plug your guitar in that side, and out of this side comes the sound of an electric organ, basically a Hammond organ or a Vox Continental, or something like that. And it looks like, looking at some of the preset names on here, there's a Mellotron setting as well. I'm going to be having some fun with this. Thank you so much, William. I genuinely am touched by that generosity. I think I mentioned using one of these or kind of fancying having a look at one of these a few weeks ago, and I'm just absolutely blown away that you've done this. Thank you so much. Are you on the beer, are you, Jem? Good for you, mate. Save some for Sunday. Me and Jem usually have a virtual pub thing on a Sunday tea time, so it can often get a bit messy then. Kieran's in. How are you, Kieran? Hi, John from Minnesota. Hi, Steve from what has been a rather hot and humid Redcar in the northeast of England today. It's going to rain, though. I can tell you why it's going to rain, because I got the shorts and the sandals out today, so I've absolutely jinxed it. Where are we? It's not cobblers, John. It's the only conversation we understand. Yes, well, that possibly says a lot about you as much as it does me, mate, to be honest with you. You have the Mel 9 and it's the bee's knees. Yeah, I am looking forward to trying this out, actually. And because I do like to put a bit of Hammond organ on, on a rock thing. I think it just immediately gives it that sort of that John Lord Deep Purple kind of vibe. I always find that, like, maybe it's got the Springsteen thing as well, because Danny Federici's organ was all over all of Springsteen's stuff. I just think with a slightly crunchy guitar sound and a Hammond organ, it's just such a beautiful texture. Evening, Craig. How are you? Of course, I will. I'll review it, Anton. I'd be a fool not to, wouldn't I? Oh, and there is a new guitar turning up this week. I often talk about this love-hate relationship I have with single-cut style guitars, Les Pauls. Let's call them Les Pauls. Where, I want a Les Paul, and then I get a Les Paul style guitar, and then I love it, and then after a while it just seems to kind of spend more time hanging on the wall than it does getting played. Well, and then the cycle will start again. Well, that is, the cycle has begun again. There's a Les Paul style guitar on its way. Not an expensive one, but it's one of those Harley Benton SC 550s. It's it's a gorgeous looking thing, and the thing that swung it for me was, stainless steel frets on a 240 quid Les Paul copy. So there you go. Have you seen reports of the funnel clouds appearing in the northeast today, John? No, I haven't, mate. I haven't. But then again, I haven't really watched much news all day. I tend not to be honest with you. It's just so easy to not get depressed if you don't watch the news, I find. John, I thought you'd be... What's that? John, I thought you'd be a real ale kind of guy rather than a lager man. I'll be honest with you, Tim, I am a real ale drinker, but there is something about putting a good cask-conditioned ale... Evening, Matthew, how are you? A good cask-conditioned ale into a can or a bottle that just, for me, ruins it. If I'm in a pub and they have a good hand-pulled beer on, then that's where I'm headed. But out of a can or a bottle, it just never, ever tastes right. So, if I'm going to drink fizzy beer, then I'll drink beer that's designed to be fizzy, as in lager. And it's Heineken this evening. It was on offer in Morrison's yesterday when I went and did the grocery shopping. So... Heineken it is this evening. A step up, you might say. Usually it's supermarket own brand, fizzy yellow stuff. But this evening it's slightly more upmarket. But I'll be honest with you, the reason why I drink lager at home is because to me it all tastes identical anyway. So there you go. Anyway, let's get back to the chat. I have two vintage brand Les Pauls, a Lemon Drop and a Wine Red Deluxe with mini humbuckers. That was the first Les Paul I ever owned, was a Les Paul Deluxe with the mini humbuckers back in the 80s, but unfortunately one of the humbuckers was dead, and somebody had decided to paint it with, that foul-smelling little pots of paint that you used to get with Airfix kits that were always stayed quite sticky and clarty and claggy. Somebody had painted it in camouflage colours with that. So, oh, you'll definitely have beer left, Jem. Good for you, mate. Good for you. Yes. Yeah, that was, as I say, that was the first Les Paul I ever owned, and I loved it. It was knackered, it was ugly, it was beaten up, and it would probably be worth a fortune today because it was relict. But it wasn't a particularly good guitar, to be honest with you, but it was my first really good brand name guitar. This was me kind of stepping up from Hondo guitars and Marlin Sidewinders and stuff like that. Yeah, Colin, I see you. I saw the pictures you sent me of that Les Paul copy you got. It was a looker, but dear me, the problems you described with it. It's just the pitfalls of buying something online, I guess. Still, at least you were able to send it back. Okay, Dave, the Electro Harmonix organ pedal is great fun. I'm looking my Mel 9 at the moment. Only had it for a couple of weeks. Well, fair enough, mate. Okay, Anton, Doombar is still good out of a bottle. Well, fair enough, mate. I guess opinions vary. Little spot of lemon Fanta in there and you're flying. Yeah, that's... it was quite the drink round here for a while, a pint of lager top. Almost pint of lager topped up with lemonade. Humbrol paint, was it, Joel? Yes, that rings a bell. Made in Hull. Yes, God, it never dried properly, and it always smelt of just, tramp's underpants, basically, for want of a better way of putting it. Where are we? Easy, fella. Next, you'll be getting a round of blast. Okay. Mini or full-sized humbuckers, got a preference? If so, why? Yeah, that's a good one. Probably, if I had to choose, I would say mini humbuckers at a push, because they've got that little bit more of a single coil vibe going on. A few years ago, one of my students had, I think it was the Paul Reed Smith Swamp Ash Special. I think that was the model he had, and that had those narrow field humbucker pickups in it, and it was just it had the kind of warmth of a humbucker, but still the kind of clarity of a single coil as well. I think they were a pickup that needed to be more successful than they were, because a little bit like Filtertrons actually. John, if you get the chance, give a listen to a band called Rival Sons if you haven't already. I have. Fantastic riffs from Scott Holiday and world-class vocals from Jay Buchanan. Too Bad is a good start. Yeah, that's another video I've got kind of in the pipeline. Well, as I say, just in my mind at the moment. I haven't really started production on it, but it's going to be called something like, good old-fashioned rock and roll is still alive and well, and I'm basically going to be talking about young bands that are still carrying the torch for kind of good old-fashioned rock and roll. And, I know they have their haters. I know some people really, really just can't get away with them, but Greta Van Fleet, their latest album, Battle at Garden's Gate, I just cannot stop listening to that. People say, oh, yes, but they're ripping off Led Zeppelin. Well, it's not like Led Zeppelin didn't borrow the odd musical idea from people who'd gone before them, is it, if we're honest? But, with each album that they kind of come out with, they sound a little bit more like their own identity, in much the same way as the Black Crowes did. You know, when they came out, it was like, oh, these guys are just ripping off the Stones. But then they became more and more, they evolved, basically, you know. Good evening, Jason from Stuttgart. How are you, mate? The best real ale name competition. Now there's one, isn't there? Yes. How about old overrated? That's, you know, there is a certain type of gentleman. Usually they have horn-rimmed glasses, which I suppose I have at the moment, and a beard and a chunky sweater. Listen to a lot of Steel Eye Span, don't they? These type, and you know, they're not happy unless they're drinking beer that's got twigs in it. Have you heard Inhaler, Bono's son's band? No, I haven't, to be honest with you. John, I bought the Glary telly. The fretboard appears to be bare wood. Would you recommend treating this with oil or just leaving it? A little tip from Dan, actually, who makes, you know, my signature model guitar. There's a plug for you, Dan. Beeswax. You know, it's that's what I used on the Glary, actually, not on the fretboard, but on the back of the neck, and it makes it really slick and smooth. Apply it with a little bit of wire wool. And yeah, it's Greta Van Fleet, Andy. They're a really young band. I mean, they're all still in their early to mid 20s, American band, and they're absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love them. Knob Goblin. Oh, Dixon Cider. There we go, Con. Yes. Ba-da-dumsh. Yes, he's here all week, ladies and gentlemen. All around my hat, yes. I've got that on a 70s playlist I listen to. There is a Welsh band called The Texas Flood that have a great album called Overworked and Underpaid. Fair enough. I shall have to check them out. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Phil. Cider is one of those drinks. It's one of those gateway drinks, isn't it? That you know, before Alco Pops became a thing, you know, when you were just kind of weaning yourself off you know, Fanta and Tizer and Coke and Pepsi and stuff like that, and you were kind of getting onto the ale, you would you'd drink cider. And I got so catastrophically drunk on cider. I think it was Strongbow when I was about 14. Yes, I know. I was an early starter. It's never ever seemed palatable to me ever since. Old Crunchy Fog. Is that a real one, or is that one you just made up, Nancy? Yeah, I saw an ale called Substantial Mean during the new pub rules. Yes, for anybody who isn't aware, outside the UK, there was a point during the whole sort of recent events, let's say, that pubs were open, but you could only have a drink if you were having what was deemed by the government a substantial meal. And I think that's a brilliant idea, calling the beer substantial meal. Absolutely fantastic. How are you, Mike? I see China Guitar Skeptics in. How are you, mate? I'll be speaking to you later on when I'm on your show. What I could do, Mike, or just an idea, I could play like pick up my guitar and play loads of Led Zeppelin and Eagles songs and stuff like that, because it's not my channel. I won't, but you know, if I was being mischievous, I could do that, couldn't I? But I won't. That Steel Eye Span album was known as All Around Mike Batt. Yeah, he produced them, didn't he? When you look at the stuff that Mike Batt has done over the years, I mean, the two things I know him for are, you know, he was a Womble, obviously, and he was... he did that Seaside Special tune, didn't he? Summertime City, which still, you know, I still love that song. I don't care who knows. But yes, he's quite the musical polymath. He's done loads and loads of stuff. There was a podcast that I watch on YouTube called Word in Your Ear, which I mentioned a while ago on when I was talking about my favourite YouTube channels. It's basically a bunch of guys from that used to be presenters on the old grey whistle test. Do it, mate, says Mike. Yeah, it's basically a bunch of this Word in Your Ear. It's basically a bunch of presenters from the old grey whistle test, and then they interview people on their podcast. And one of the people they interviewed was Mike Batt, and when he was just talking about his career and the stuff that he's done. Dear me, I had no idea of the half of it. The orchestral stuff that he's done and the production he's done. So well worth checking out. Very interesting guy to listen to. David Evans said you should try a Green Monster, a pint of snakebite with blue balls, rocket fuel. Yes, I have a story to tell you about that, David, actually. I've had that drink many times, although it wasn't called a Green Monster back then. It was called a Gyro, because it was green and got you drunk. And then there was the Thin Lizzy, where you did a whiskey depth charge in it, and that was called it was called a Thin Lizzy because it was a whiskey in the Gyro. I knew a Womble, he walked with a limp. Think about it. Yeah, that one's gone over my head, Colin, I'm afraid. Mike Batt did a copyright claim against you Womble's cover. Yeah, I think Steve Hoggett, who's on the chat tonight, his band, the Amazing Space Frogs, they do a song called, as I've mentioned many times before, we have a particular culinary delicacy in this part of the world called the parmo, which is basically chicken breast with breadcrumbs and cheese and heart attack on a plate, basically. But it's gorgeous. And his band, the Amazing Space Frogs, did a song called the Parmo Song, and it goes pa 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 parmesan like that. It basically uses Barbaran, and I think he got a copyright claim by Brian Wilson about it. So if you're in the chat still, Steve, confirm that for us, would you, mate? I nearly got chucked off Twitter by posting a clip of me playing the riff from Life in the Fast Lane. Mr. Henley is always watching. Yes, that is sadly the case. And without wishing to rant too much, I think bands that do that get overly protective of their copyright. I mean, it's one thing if you steal someone else's work and try and pass it off as your own, then you've got a legitimate kind of beef there, I would say. But if you're kind of just objecting every time anybody, plays something that is, maybe as a hobby or as an educational kind of thing, where you're adding content to it, you're adding value to it, perhaps, by using a piece of music to illustrate a musical educational point. The moment you start doing that, for me, it just, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because how else is your music going to survive? What happens in 20 years time when the band that you were a member of has ceased to have hits, and everybody in the band is perhaps kind of infirm and can't play, or maybe not there anymore. It's the way your music is going to stay relevant is if people are kind of playing it and talking about it and discussing it and teaching it, and to start kind of hammering those people down, it's very short-sighted, I think. Yes, David, that AC/DC Rock Goes to College gig, that was a fantastic series on the BBC back in the late 70s, early 80s, wasn't it? And that's a particular... Oh, you never got took down, did it, Steve? Steve's just talking about the Palmo song there. Yes, well, you know, at least I've never had a video taken down yet, but I've had quite a few videos where basically I've put all the work into the video and kind of and all the effort into producing the video, and it's just the money's been taken away from me. That has happened a few times, in an egregious way. There's been a couple of times when all I've done is used a chord sequence that is in the public domain, because you can't copyright a chord sequence, and I've improvised a solo over that chord sequence, and I've been told, you've stolen the melody from this copyrighted song, you can't have the money from this video. But here's the way I view it, okay? When I count up over the years how many times someone has recorded an album for me to cassette, they've copied the latest album by whatever band it was to a cassette, or burnt it to a CD, or, maybe even in the current era, Dropboxed the MP3s to me, The record companies are ripping me off by taking my revenue from the videos that I've done, but I reckon I've probably, kind of ripped them off a little bit more over the years. So I'm kind of okay with that, The Palmo song has no adverts on it. I think it's got about 14k views, but yes, claimed by their publisher. Well, that's just one of those things, isn't it, mate? I mean, I'll tell you when I first heard about that, Steve. Sorry, we're just having a bit of conversation between me and Stevie. I read it in the local paper. It was quite a big thing in the Evening Gazette on Teesside, that song of yours, or that song of the Beach Boys, I should say. You can cover Led Zeppelin so long as you cover the Lead Belly version. Yes, indeed. As I was saying earlier, people talking about Greta Van Fleet ripping off Led Zeppelin. It's not like they didn't borrow the odd idea or two, did they? Okay, Tim, your sister was at Surrey University when the Stranglers walked off stage at Rock Goes to College. I don't remember that one. Maybe that didn't get broadcast, or maybe it did. I don't know. But I didn't know that. Any reason why they walked off? Was it just some kind of typical rock star diva strop, or was it something justifiable about it? If Rick Beato is getting these copyright claims, and he has quite a few famous musician connections, then it's not surprising others get them. Will sort itself out one day. Yeah, now, here's the thing about Rick. I love Rick Beato. I love his channel. I'm an avid watcher of his stuff. But I think the people, maybe the copyright holders, get a little bit annoyed at the fact that he's got pirated copies of their master tapes. I think that might be the reason where it kind of pushes it over the edge in terms of copyright there. It's one thing, kind of me playing a solo from a Dire Straits song and that getting claimed. It's another thing entirely if I'd sort of somehow or other, by nefarious means, got hold of the master tapes of Sultans of Swing, for instance. I could see how that might ruffle a few feathers, to be honest. John, any chance of a David Gilmore 5 a.m. solo lesson? Is 5 a.m. A David Gilmore track? I'm not sure. If it is, it's a new one on me. But or are you wanting me to get up at like daft o'clock in the morning and live stream it or something? Yes, Pablo. Mike Bat did indeed write Bright Eyes. Where are we? Are you off? Are you, Tim? Are you off? Any chance of any views on Eric Gales? Not somebody I've listened to a hell of a lot, but thank you for reminding me. He is now officially on my to-do list. Okay, Stranglers fans were locked out. Is that what it was? They were they just let the BBC audience, the approved BBC audience, in. You're at Wembley for the infamous Richie Blackmore 50-minute set. Yeah, now there is a chap who is prone to the odd rock star diva strop, isn't he? Okay, the Stranglers walking off stages on YouTube. I shall have to have a look at that. Hi John, have you tried any of the Allegory pickups? They do a hybrid Telesat Alnico 5 across bass and 2 across treble strings. Any opinion? No, I've never tried them, and I've never heard of that being done on a pickup set before, so that would be interesting. That might be something I might just chuck into the Glary, actually. Because that is pretty much a test bed guitar now. It's when I'm trying out, kind of new mods and stuff like that. So I shall give that a go, actually. I can see why, because actually, Alnico 5 is a kind of a higher output magnet. Usually, you tend to associate Alnico 5 magnets with a ballsier sound. So I can see why they would do that. It would accentuate the bottom end sound of a telly, which I think that's a great idea, actually. John, do any master tapes exist anymore when Universal lost them in that big fire? Oops. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of the master tapes are, they were taken into studios and converted into a digital format these days. So the original kind of magnetic tapes might have gone, but I suspect there's digital copies of them knocking around for pretty much anything. Oh, you've got one of them in one of your bullet tellies, have you, Colin? Those Allegory pickups. Well, maybe we can arrange something, mate. John, have you checked out Neil Sean's guitar collection auction online? Pre-bidding is open. One Les Paul starts at 150 grand. Some beauties, though. Yeah, I can't remember it was Dweezil Zappa, actually. Dweezil Zappa auctioned off a load of guitars recently. I was watching the Trogleys, kind of look at the auction catalogue on that, and he was actually, I think, considering bidding on a couple of them that were sort of, not in ridiculous money kind of territory. Where are we? Okay, cheap to buy. Well, I shall, says Budbox Guitars. That's the Allegory pickups. I shall have to check them out. Okay, so you got the 5-way switching on that one. Is that the same 5-way switching that was on that bullet that we looked at the other week, Colin? Where are we? A small house or a Les Paul. Yes, indeed. It is getting ridiculous when, an electric guitar, a musical instrument, can cost you the same as you said, mate, a small dwelling. It goes beyond its value as a musical instrument, doesn't it, really? And the sad thing is that, you've got some, just again, a bit of a hobby horse of mine. You've got some absolutely beautiful guitars now that are never, ever, ever going to get played again. They're just being bought as heirlooms and collector's pieces, and they're probably going to end up, in a safety deposit vault somewhere. And it's to me, it's just such a crying shame. Okay, Phil, the bridge and neck mod on a Strat. For anyone thinking about that, middle telly position sounds fantastic. Yes, I've done that on a few Strat style guitars. Bizarrely, there are some excuse me, Strat style guitars I've done that on, and it makes no difference. What I mean by that is, you know, the when you're in the middle position on a Strat, you've just got the middle pickup on its own. And one guitar that I did this on actually was a vintage, the vintage V6 that I had a few years ago. Fantastic Strat style guitar, that absolutely brilliant. And I did that what's often called the Gilmore mod on it, where you kind of just flick a switch and get the bridge and neck pickups on together, and it sounded identical to the middle pickup on its own, which was, you know, really odd. So it's just like, okay, so I've done all this soldering and, you know, kind of faffed around. That's the one thing I really kind of don't like working on Strats for. It's like, it's such a faff around to get at the wiring, you know. It's unlike on a telly where it's 2 screws and the control plate comes off. On a Strat, it's strings off, scratch plate off, and, you know, it's just more of a hassle to do it. But as I say, on that vintage V6, the bridge and neck on together sounded identical just to the middle pickup on its own. It's actually the same on me Nashville Telecaster as well. The middle pickup on that sounds, I haven't done the Gilmore mod on that, but it does really, really sound just like the middle position on a regular 2 pickup telly. Where are we? Sorry, I'm just reading the chat here. Would you have a charity boxing match against another YouTube guitar personality? If so, who? Oh, dear me. Well, you know, a charity boxing match. I've never boxed in my life, but it would have to be somebody who's you know, kind of a certain weight, shall we say. I don't think I would ever get away with putting myself up for a bantamweight bout. Do you know what I mean? I'm carrying too much weight for that. So I don't. Maybe I'll discuss this with Mike later. Where are we? Yes, I got the Deluxe Strat 3 pickups. Okay, well, don't all Strats have 3 pickups? I'm missing something there. Oh, Deluxe Telly. Sorry, I see what you mean. Yes. Yeah, I've got the Nashville Deluxe Telly, and it's a fantastic guitar. I should play it more often in videos, but I'm just always too tempted to pick, you know, Blondie up. Because this guitar is absolutely addictive. You know, I'm plugging Dan here, but he deserves it because he is an absolute master of the guitar craft. Paul Davids looks skinny, easy to win. Rob Chapman, yeah, well, I don't know. See, what you're really asking me is, who do I want to punch? that's what you're really asking me, and that's an easy way for me to get into trouble, isn't it? I haven't had quite enough beers yet to be that honest. I have the 5-way harness you reviewed on order for them. Thanks for the heads up on that. They're going at the Harley Benton TE70 Rosewood. Yeah, that's a grand little guitar, that Harley Benton Rosewood Telecaster. I had real problems actually, because I had one of those way back when I first started doing, like, taking YouTube seriously. And I was doing the whole Guitars for Good Causes thing back then, raising money for Zoe's place. And the idea was, people would chip into the GoFundMe, I'd buy guitars and review them, make a little bit of money off the video, then sell the guitar on for Zoe's place, you know. So I was making revenue out of it, and Zoe's place was getting, a nice little income stream from it as well. And when I came to sell it on, YouTube wouldn't let me list it. even the fact that I was putting in, it was kind of, imitation rosewood. The fact that I was putting rosewood in the description, they were saying you can't list that. That's a banned substance, because this was during all the CITES stuff about kind of whether you were allowed to sell rosewood. So I had to put, kind of a dark coloured wood. Well, fair enough, mate. This is turning into just turning into like, who does John Robson want to punch? And I'm not going to go there. You wouldn't want to take on Guitar Max. No, he looks like he spends a fair bit of time with the old dumbbells, doesn't he, Guitar Max? I love his channel. Like, he's one of the few metal guitarists that I watch. Anyway, excuse me. I think I'm pacing myself rather well this evening, actually, given that I've got, an extended kind of evening this evening on YouTube. We're 40 minutes in, and I've only had 2 beers. I'm usually about 3 in by now. And a couple of weeks ago, by this time, I was opening my last one, and that was terrible. It got a bit messy that night, I've got to tell you. So excuse me while I just top the old glass up. Let's see if I can get this reasonably well poured. Here we go. Oh, not bad. Although somebody's going to shout flake in a moment, I'm sure. There we go. That's not a bad little head on a pint now, is it? I think I can live with that. On the adversarial topic, Crossroads movie ending, which YouTuber would you play against? Okay. Well, when I think like that, I always tend to think in terms of who would I like to play with? Which YouTuber would I really like to, to have a jam with and stuff. And if it was absolutely open season, I'd love to jam with Tim Pierce. I think he is just his playing is just so simple. He's a very pentatonic player, but he just such a fantastic musician. It's just all the years of session playing he's done where he's just absolutely got that knack of playing the perfect part. And when you look at him playing, he's always just got this huge big grin on his face. You can tell he's loving what he's doing. So I would love to jam with Tim Pierce. Go on, Anton. Thank you, Flake. Yes, it's not that bad, mate. Extended beer o'clock, John. It makes sense. Yeah, that's the thing. I did one of those at Christmas, and it was going to be a 2-hour live stream. It ended up being about an hour and a half because I'm a middle-aged chap and my bladder can only last so long. You off, Jason? Are you? Almost time for evening meal. The thought of John in boxer shorts sweating in a ring. Let's not go there. No offence. I know exactly what you mean, mate. Yes, that's an image that'll buy you 6 months in therapy, isn't it? Have you seen the new Harley single cuts, mahogany ones, roasted LP shaped with F holes? I haven't seen those, but I have got, as I was saying earlier, another Harley Benton turning up in the next week or so. And I'll probably end up doing the thing I usually do with it, which is make 3 or 4 videos with it and then sell it on and lose a little bit of money but gain a little bit of money from the revenue on the videos. That seems to be a business model that kind of works. I usually end up, oh dear me, even 10 or even sometimes 20 quid ahead on the deal. I got an old telly neck I keep by my front door for security purposes. Right, where are we? Okay, everybody keeps shouting flake when I pour a drink. Yes, I would love to see some of your attempts. When you're kind of trying to read the chat. Keep the conversation going, pour a beer. Thank you, Das. That will wing its way to Zoe's place as soon as the, I was going to say as soon as the check from YouTube comes in, but it's not. It's a bank transfer. But you know what I mean. Thank you so much. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Yeah, Anton, Tim is an absolute fantastic guitarist. He is another one I would love to jam with is Dave Simpson, actually. I think it's very brave what he does, the way he, his video. I mean, I don't tend to watch a lot of Dave's videos because, you need to think, okay, have I got 40 minutes to spare? And a lot of the time I just don't. But it is very brave what he does to just kind of plug in and play, an extended jam for sometimes 10, 15 minutes, without any edits, without any, kind of messing around or anything like that. He just plugs in and plays, and he can just boom deliver the goods like that. So I would love to play with Dave if he's up for it at some point. Do you remember all the guitar parts you've learnt over the years, John? I need to go over what I've learnt at least every now and then, or it can fade away a bit. I'll be honest with you, I don't. But if ever I have to learn, like there's here's one coming up very soon on the channel. I'm doing a solo from Elton John's "Kiss the Bride," the Davey Johnson solo from that, and I used to play that in a working men's club band back in about 1991, and I've not played that solo since. But once I'd started kind of figuring out the first couple of licks, suddenly I was able to remember the rest of the solo. So I couldn't have played it, if before I'd started doing the video on that track, if you'd said, play me, you learnt this solo, I saw you play this solo 30 years ago, play it again now, I probably couldn't have done. But once I'd got the first bar or two under my fingers, suddenly it all came back. And I find that's often the way with it, really. I was learning Hey Joe by Hendrix, and somebody online said it was a beginner song. I must admit I find the solo challenging, although I can play it. Is it a beginner song? In terms of the chords, yeah, I would say it is a beginner song. I give that song to, because what is it? It's C, G, D, A, E. They're not exactly... Thank you very much, Jason. You're a gentleman and a scholar. It's not exactly, a taxing set of chords, but the solo it's more fiddly than you think. So, okay, shouting flake is now a tradition. It has to be done irrespective of how you pour your beer. Fair enough. I'm glad we're getting these kind of little traditions going on here. It shows that this is becoming established, I guess. So yeah, I mean, Hey Joe, it's not a difficult song. The difficulty is actually in the strumming, in the rhythm guitar part. That's to get that sort of Hendrixy sort of feel. It's like a semi-quaver kind of strumming sort of thing, which beginners often can struggle with. But yeah, just in terms of the chord changes, it is one I do give to people. I say, and now you can play along with Jimi Hendrix. So that's often kind of a feather in the cap for somebody who's just in the early stages of learning. Any opinion on Behringer pedals? I've never tried them, but my audio interface is I can do this on this computer, can't I? Because I'm using a webcam rather than, like a separate webcam. That's my audio interface, the Behringer UMC 22, and much maligned. People say, oh, it's cheap, therefore it's, useless and rubbish and doesn't work and everything, but it works absolutely fine. And, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, yeah, no problems. I have tried, in terms of budget pedals, I did used to have a couple of those back, about 12 years ago, when I was in a band called the Sweeney. I used to have a couple of Dan Electro pedals, a chorus pedal and a delay pedal, and I think it might have been a compressor that I had, and they were absolutely fine. They worked great, They just did what they were supposed to do, and they were reliable and they were cheap, and why spend more than you need to? I wonder how Hendrix would fare these days. Would he be swallowed up by the myriad of guitar players, or would he still stand out? I think he would still stand out because of his songwriting. I mean, when you consider that a song like Wind Cries Mary was written in an evening and recorded in about 15 minutes, including a couple of overdubs. He was one of those guitarists, Hendrix, who, by all accounts, obviously I never experienced him personally because I was only 3 when he died. But by all accounts, from people who knew him, he could just kind of turn up, plug in, play, do something memorable, do something that was absolutely perfect for the song in 1 or 2 takes, and say thank you very much. Again, it comes from the fact that, much like Tim Pierce, when you look at Hendrix's background, you wouldn't have called him a session player, but he was a jobbing guitarist who had to play with many. I mean, he played with the Isley Brothers, he played with Ike and Tina Turner. He was fired by Little Richard, apparently, because Little Richard said nobody's allowed to look prettier than me in this band, which is fair enough. But he had that kind of journeyman musician kind of thing going on that meant he could just click his fingers and deliver the goods. Plus the songwriting ability, I think he would still stand in good stead in today's musical environment. Amongst guitar players at least. I burnt the back of my ear at work to do with me welding torch. I'm going to have to medicate with alcohol. Yes, you do that, Johnny. It's Friday after all. Yes, David, I keep meaning to get one of those myself. Sorry, Steve, Mr. Hoggett. Yeah, he did mention that that Behringer pedal, to kind of go into the interface to give it that more kind of valvey sort of feel. I keep meaning to get one, and every time I think, it's like, oh, I'll order that Behringer pedal, and then something comes up and there's something more important and I forget. Okay, Hendrix played your hometown of South Shields around 68. Crazy to think. Yeah, it is, I'm with you on that, Craig. It took me a while to get into Hendrix, and the person who got me into Jimi Hendrix was Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's especially in the northeast of England, where Chas Chandler was like the local big kind of music bigwig, if you like. There were always things on local TV where they were interviewing Chas Chandler, and he would always talk about Hendrix. And in these interviews, they would always play some clip of Hendrix, and it was always something where he's smashing a guitar or setting a guitar on fire, and it's this cacophonous wall of feedback. And this is this was my experience of Jimi Hendrix as an adolescent and as a young'un. And I thought, well, I just don't get it. And then I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan's version of Voodoo Child. And then I went back and listened to the original. I went back and investigated Hendrix's, his recorded works rather than the kind of wild man guitar smashing, guitar burning kind of clips that they always played on TV. And I thought, okay, yeah, now I get it. check out Hornet's Nest. That's Jimmy with Curtis Knight. Okay, I shall indeed. I've been really impressed with the Sonicake stuff. That's not too expensive neither. No, I tell you, I meant to mention this because at the back end of last year, I checked out the Sonicake rock stage on the recommendation of Ozzy, a regular on the chat here. I haven't seen him in tonight. Has anybody seen Ozzy? Is he in? Have I missed him? But yeah, he was always banging on about the Sonicake rock stage, so I finally kind of got one and checked it out. And it was, to me, it was such an easy way of dialing in that classic Tom Scholz Rockman sound, you know. And you try buying an original 80s Rockman now, they're like, you know, kind of rocking horse poo. They are so rare and expensive. But, you know, get a Sonicake rock stage and you can dial in that Tom Scholz kind of sound very, very easily. Okay, Steve, that'd be great. Yeah, we'll have to talk about when we're going to do this session of Doom, mate. Yes, we'll ping some emails, mate. Stevie Ray Vaughan got you into Hendrix's too. Well, fair enough. You know, it's and that was the thing. You know, I never understood, and this criticism of Stevie Ray Vaughan that was all over the place when he was alive was that, oh yeah, he's just ripping off Hendrix. Did anybody notice how, like, when Stevie died, that criticism stopped? You know, all the people who were the music journalists I'm talking to, who were kind of saying he's just a cheap copy of Hendrix. There were plenty of them in all the music publications, you know, that were saying that kind of stuff. They suddenly shut up about that when he died. Which they should have shut up about it, you know, earlier, to be honest with you. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, wearing your influences on your sleeve from time to time. I can listen to a Stevie Ray Vaughan, or even a Kenny Wayne Shepherd, you know, recording and think, yeah, I can obviously tell that's Hendrix influenced. But it's not ripping him off. It's, you know, it's just kind of, it's showing your influences. There's nothing at all wrong with that. Speaking as somebody who has, you know, stolen a few licks from Gary Moore in his time. The Sonicake Twiggy Blues is awesome. Yeah, that's the next one on my list to check out, Mike. I am going to be grabbing one of those at some point. Anyway, chaps, it's been almost an hour, and I've got to go and kind of turn the oven on and stuff before I get chatting with Mike on his live stream in half an hour or so. So I'm going to just, I've only gone through 3 beers in this live stream. I've paced myself rather well. Thank you once again, everyone, for turning up, and I'll probably see a lot of you very shortly on Mike's live stream, so make sure you tune in for that. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thanks once again, everyone. It's been a blast, as always, but for now, time, gentlemen, please.